Hey, what's up? Today I wanted to present to you this new library that I created called N1netails Kuda. Kuda is an integration library that acts as a smart link between your application and the N1netails platform. Quiet, powerful, and built to vanish into your stack like a spirit fox. The idea of Kuda is it's a new concept or a new methodology that I'm trying to start, which is tracking the last event that happened in your application if something went wrong or if something went successful as well. Kuda works a lot like the other existing logging libraries where you can say log.info or log.error, but instead of log, you use a tail to send the message. So where Kuda differs from the other loggers is Kuda is meant to be set up with another backend API. So you can configure your own backend API, but for this version 0.1, you need to have a backend API that has this endpoint. Or you can set it up with the N1netails API, which I will show at a later time as I am still working on the prototype. But if you want to use this library, you can set up your own endpoint and have this URL path. Now Kuda is super simple to configure. You just need these 3 lines of code to set the API URL. And you need a 9-token ID if you are using the N1netails API. If you're using your own custom API, you can create your own token or not even have a token. It's up to you. And then after that, you should be able to send your tail information. Yeah, and then in the README, I go over all the different tails you can send. So we got your generic tail info, tail success, tail warn, tail error, and tail critical. And then you can also send customized levels. So with tail.kuda, you can send a customized level, something that might pertain to your project. And another great thing about Kuda and where it differs is with Kuda you can set up a default uncaught exception handler. So if you set this enable exception handler, Kuda will capture all the exceptions that you are not capturing in your application. So that's actually a nice catch-all. And you can also use it to auto-generate reports based off of an exception that happened. So here we got this illegal argument exception. I can catch it and use a tail report and just pass the exception in. And then this tail report will generate a bunch of information that it can send to the N1netails API. And then here, let's see, you can set a custom level for your report. And also, this is how it handles the uncaught exception. So here's an example of a thread that doesn't get caught in Spring Boot. And you can throw this thread and it will Kuda will auto capture that exception and send it to the N1netails API. So this will definitely help as a default uncaught exception handler by default. And another nice thing about Kuda is if you don't set up the backend API, you can just use it as a simple logging service as well. Some plans I have in the future is I'd like to hook up Kuda with the other logging libraries like SLF4j, Logback, and Log4j. I want to be able to have Kuda run in the background for those logs as well and give users that option. Anyways, I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and build up this library and I'll show you how it works. Yeah. And so Kuda goes along with this N1netails dashboard that I've been building here. You can build your own dashboard or have your own backend to handle the alerts that Kuda sends, but you can also have Kuda work with my N1netails API and interface. And what it does is every time Kuda sends alert, so we have a custom Kuda alert here, and it will include metadata on that alert, a description, and provide details. For the uncaught exception handling, let me see if I can find one that exists. So here's a custom error report that was generated from Kuda with that tail.report where we capture the exception. Let me highlight that part. So in this part right here, the exception handler, this tail report is going to be generating this information here. So I'm going to blur out some of this stuff, but it shows the host name and then what the exception was, provides extra details on the last tail data, and Kuda will also provide some metadata. So this will help you with identifying where the issue might be happening. There's the local IP, the OS information. I'm going to blur some of this stuff out, but it should be useful for doing some investigating on what might have occurred. So now that you understand how Kuda works at a high level, I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can set it up in your own project. And I'm basically going to be going over this stuff here. Some of them, like we'll go over the error, tail error one, and we'll also go over the error reports and the exception handling. Okay, and if you want to follow along with this tutorial, you can use the N1netails sandbox repository. This is just a sandbox I created to experiment with all the different libraries that I'm building. And there's examples on how to use the libraries as well. So it shows you how to set up N1netails Kuda, shows you how to set up the Discord webhook client and the Telegram client. Okay, so the first thing you want to do to get started on the project is you can find N1netails Kuda on the Maven Central repository. If I go here, I can copy this dependency, and what you can do is set up a new project. It can be a Spring Boot project or you can use an existing project. I have a N1netails sandbox that I'm going to be using for this demo, and if you want to follow along, you can also use this sandbox as well. The sandbox is going to go over the different libraries that are available for N1netails. So we got the N1netails Kuda, the Discord webhook, and the Telegram client. It shows how to set all those up for you. Anyways, I am inside my N1netails sandbox, and I am going to add my dependency for Kuda. So N1netails Kuda version 0.1. Once you have Kuda added to your live application, you can start using it in your project. So what I did here inside of my sandbox project, I created this command line runner, and the command line runner just executes actions at the beginning of your application. And I'm doing this for demo purposes to show you how you can use Kuda. So once you have Kuda all set up, go into a place where you would like to configure it. It needs to be configured once. You can see here my Spring Boot other libraries. I set up a configuration for my other libraries. For now, I'm just going to do it here because I want to show how you can do it with any kind of project. So with Kuda, you have to configure it in order to tell it where the API is. And you can use these 4 lines of code to get set up. The first line is the set API URL, and this is where you want it to point to your backend server. And optionally, you can set this API path. I'm going to add that there because it needs to be a path. If you do not set this path, it's going to default to this API alert. Okay, so in your backend, if you want to use your own backend and not the N1netails API, you can set up a service that handles this endpoint API alert. Otherwise, you can configure it to set a custom path. Now, if you want to pair the Kuda with the N1netails project, you need to set up a 9 token. If you're using your own backend server, you can have your backend server generate its own token, or you can just not have it use a token. Up to you. Anyways, if you're using the N1netails API, you have to make a token, and you can do that by going to the API, the UI, and once you have created an account, you can just go into this user dropdown, go to account settings, and then you can create the token. So I'm going to delete this token because I need to recreate it. So I'm going to call it the Kuda demo token, and it's going to be linked to the N1netails organization, and I'm not going to give it expiration date for now. So now I got this Kuda demo token generated. I'm going to copy that value and bring it over here. So I got the 9 token configured, and that will allow Kuda to talk with my N1netails project. And here I'm going to show you how you can send your first message. So with N1netails, there are a few different errors, different tails you can send to your applications. And if you go over the README, it provides a bunch of demos or examples on how to send different types of tails. So this is the simplest tail. We're going to do tail.error, and we're just going to say the application had issues starting up, and it was inside the N1netails sandbox. So I'll save all of this, and I'll go ahead and run. Okay, so it looks like there was an issue. It's responded with a 403. Let's check that out. Okay, it looks like I had a little error in my set API path. Yeah, apparently I had some issue, but if I send this now, we'll see that there was a little log here, tail error, application issue setting up N1netails sandbox. We can see that this error doesn't stop the application from running, which is good. And if I check my API here, or the interface, we can see that there's 2 new tails that showed up here. And yeah, so this is a simple tail. It doesn't really give you much information. I'm going to show you how to build some tails with more information. So there's a lot of extra things you can add to each of the tail levels, and all of them have the same kind of extra methods, but this is all of the methods you can use with a tail. So if you want to add extra details or metadata to your tail, you can create a map to add some extra information. So we can say this is coming from the environment of production. Yeah, and I'm going to test out an error, blah, blah, blah. You can put whatever you want inside this map, and then you can give it extra information like here's a description. We'll put this is an error tail, extra, and then you can add extra information on the tail if needed. You can give details, and this is where you want to put your log stack data, your stack trace data. You can just dump a lot of information in this details. That's what it's meant to be used for. And then we can give a type, what type of alert exists. So if I look at my N1netails API or interface here, we have a bunch of different alert tail types, and I'm going to modify this as I continue developing this application. But these are all the different alerts you can set up, and there's good alerts and bad alerts, as you can see here. So you can actually use this to see if a user maybe signed up, and you can get alerts, or you can set up like a health check kind of thing as well, where you can have your application sending a health status to the N1netails API. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and send both of these errors, and then you'll be able to see the differences in the tail information. So let's go ahead and rerun this. And we can see it sent 2 tail errors. If I look on my dashboard interface, the number of alerts today increased as well, and I can see the 2 alerts here. So this was the basic alert with not enough information, and then we got one with a little bit more information here. So we included the metadata description on that action that happened and extra details. Cool. So now you know how to send different tails to the N1netails project. Now, another thing you can do with N1netails Kuda is you can configure it to set up your default exception handler, but you can also have it create your log stack trace for you. And what I'm going to do here is show an example of throwing an exception and how you can use Kuda to generate a report for you and send it to the N1netails project interface and dashboard. So here I'm going to be throwing illegal argument exception. The user ID was null. And what I'm going to do is here you can usually want to log extra information. And what I'm going to do is tell Kuda to report this exception to my interface. And the nice thing about this report is it actually provides a lot of extra information. So if we look in here, there's a lot of things that it adds to the metadata, and then it also captures that log, the print stack trace, and adds it to the details. So yeah, let's go and run this. We can see that it sent 3 new tails. If I go back to the dashboard, and some of this information I'm going to blur out. But yeah, you can see we got new alerts. And if I look at this last tail, this is the one that was generated from the tail report. So in here, there's actually even more information, the host that it came from, and then what the exception was. Inside of here, we got the extra metadata like the local IP, what operating system was being used, extra details that can help you with troubleshooting this issue. And here you can add the extra description. I kept it pretty simple. Yeah, the report will just add the description for you. And then in the details, we got that stack trace. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to show is you can set up N1netails Kuda to be your default uncaught exception handler. So one thing that I see common in a lot of applications is they do not have a way to capture uncaught exceptions. So sometimes exceptions happen and we have no idea what happened and why. So with using this tail config enable exception handler, Kuda will capture any uncaught exception and send it to the API. I think this is one of the biggest benefits of using this library. It can help you capture uncaught exceptions. For example, if I'm in a new thread and an exception occurs, if I don't have any way to capture it, it might be lost, right? I mean, I guess you could capture it somewhere else, But with Kuda, we just keep it simple. The nice thing about Kuda is it's simple and it's direct to the point, right? You don't have to do so many things to just get alerted on what is happening. So I'm going to go ahead, save all, and run this example. We're going to see that it will capture this exception. It will actually log it out to the console so you can see it, but it also sends this to the interface. To my dashboard, you will be able to see on this first one here, it has that exception that it captured. We didn't even capture this exception, but Kuda was able to capture it for us. And in the background, Kuda does the tail report, so it provides the metadata as well again. And it goes over the details, the stack trace. Anyways, that is all for today. Yeah, I just built the library Kuda, and I'm trying to set up this new methodology called a tail, where you capture the last event that happened. These events could be successful events, they could be bad events. It's mostly meant for bad events, but you can also do successful stuff or get info. I am also working on releasing this dashboard soon. I want to set up some Docker images, so I'm putting in the final touches for that and should be releasing it soon. Maybe I'll go over a demo on how to get this set up and deployed with Docker. Anyways, if you like these videos or if you're interested in seeing what other things I might get up to, please like and subscribe. I will see you next time. Peace.